In 1933, a filmmaker captured grainy black and white footage of the last known Tasmanian tiger, a male named Benjamin, pacing endlessly inside his enclosure at Hobart Zoo. It's a haunting image. The last known survivor of a species that had roamed Australia for thousands of years, now confined to a concrete cage. Just 3 years later, Benjamin died, and with him, the Tasmanian tiger disappeared from the earth. For nearly a century, that seemed like the end of its story. But advances in genetics have raised a new question. Can an extinct species be brought back? Extinction is a natural part of evolution. In fact, over 99% of all species that have ever lived are now extinct. But today, human activities such as habitat destruction, pollution, overhunting, and climate change have accelerated extinction dramatically. Scientists estimate that species are now disappearing 100 to 1,000 times faster than the natural background rate. The Tasmanian tiger is one of those losses. It wasn't wiped out by natural forces alone. Following European settlement in Tasmania, it was heavily hunted because it was seen as a threat to livestock. Combined with habitat loss and other pressures, the species eventually disappeared. Which brings us back to our question. If humans are responsible for driving so many different species to extinction, should we try to bring them back? For a long time, the answer was no, because it just wasn't possible. But modern genetics has changed that. CRISPR-Cas9 is a gene editing tool that can be thought of as a pair of microscopic genetic scissors. It allows scientists to precisely manipulate DNA, opening possibilities that once belonged only in science fiction. So how would scientists attempt to bring back the Tasmanian tiger? Scientists have a preserved Tasmanian tiger Joey from the 1920s containing fragments of its DNA. But because DNA breaks down over time, they can't simply clone the animal. Instead, they have to rebuild as much of its genome as possible. Researchers compare those DNA fragments with the genome of the Tasmanian tiger's closest living relative, the fat-tailed dunnart, a tiny Australian marsupial that shares around 95% of its genome. Using CRISPR, scientists hope to edit dunnart cells so their DNA becomes increasingly similar to that of a Tasmanian tiger. Even if they succeed, the result wouldn't be a perfect copy of the original species. It would be a genetically engineered animal that closely resembles the extinct Tasmanian tiger. Scientists aren't just talking about these ideas, they've already begun to test them. Earlier this year, a biotechnology company announced genetically engineered wolves with traits inspired by the extinct dire wolf. Many headlines claimed the dire wolf had returned, but the reality is more complicated. Scientists didn't clone a dire wolf. Instead, they started with the DNA of a modern gray wolf and edited a small number of genes associated with dire wolf traits. The result is an animal that resembles a dire wolf in some ways, but it is not the extinct species brought back to life. That project demonstrates both the incredible potential and the current limitations of de-extinction technology. But bringing an animal back genetically is only the beginning. A species isn't just its DNA. It also needs a suitable habitat, a healthy breeding population, and an ecosystem where it can survive. Without those, bringing an animal back would simply mean creating another creature that lives only in captivity. So, can we bring extinct species back? For animals that disappeared recently and still have recoverable DNA, the answer is maybe. But perhaps the bigger question isn't whether we can, it's whether we should. If we have the technology to reverse extinction, do we have a responsibility to use it? Or should our priority be preventing the next extinction instead? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to Just Learning, and join us for more fascinating stories from the world of science.